B095 Rasmussen Intermediate Algebra. Alright, so I'm just going to get started here on number 1. We have a problem that says evaluate 3 to the 4th plus 5 times 30 plus 6 squared minus 19. Alright, you want to remember on these problems to use order of operations. Parentheses are grouping symbols first, exponents, multiply, divide from left to right, and add, subtract from left to right. So since I don't have parentheses in this problem, I am going to start with my exponents. So I do 3 to the 4th and get 81. I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to do 6 squared to get 36 and then subtract 19. So I took care of all of my exponents. The next thing I'm going to do is multiply or divide. So I have these two to multiply. 81 plus 150 plus 36 minus 19. And since I'm done with that, the last thing that I have to do is add and subtract from left to right. So all I have left is adding and subtracting, so I would just do 81 plus 150 plus 36 minus 19 equals, and that should give you 248. Alright, on number 2, you have some distributing and like terms to combine. So I'm going to distribute the 6 to these and make sure you multiply. 6 times 2r is 12r. And there's a 1 here, so 6 times negative 1 is negative 6t. If it helps to make, circle this kind of together so you know that's a negative sign, do negative 7 times 3 for negative 21r, and negative 7 times negative 5, so the negative times the negative makes it positive 35t. From there we've gotten rid of our parentheses, and now we're just going to combine the like terms. So I have 12r minus 21r, which gives me negative 9r's. Took care of those. Now I have negative 6t plus 35t, which ends up with 29t. So there's my final answer. If you have it as 29t minus 9r, that's the exact same thing. So no worries either way. They're just different variables, so you can't actually combine the t's and the r's together. Now number 3 has more distributing, but it has a little bit more complicated since it has parentheses inside of more grouping symbols, so the brackets are treated like parentheses. So I got to go innermost and start working out. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply the 8 here. So I'm going to leave 4 outside. I'd have 8x. 8 times 8 is my negative 64. Minus 10. All that stays inside of there together. I have subtracting. Distribute the 6. 6x minus 24 plus 8. All that stays together in here. So I'm going to simplify to make it easier for myself. So I have 4 outside. 8x minus 74 minus 6x comes down. Negative 24 plus 8 is negative 16, or subtract 16. Alright, so now I have the outside distributing to do. I'm going to do 4 times that. 4 times 74. So I have 32x. Subtract 296. Make sure you multiply with that. Okay, so this is also right here. This is like saying negative 1. So negative 1 times that. Negative 6x. Negative 1 times negative 16 makes positive 16. So finish up with like terms, 32x minus 6x, 26x. Then negative 296 plus 16 is negative 280. That is your final answer for number 3. Number 4, you have some distributing to do, but now we have an equal sign, so we actually got to solve what k equals in the end. In this one, on the left side, I don't want to distribute 2k, I want to distribute negative 1. Negative 1 times that, and negative 1 times that. So this 2k just kind of falls down. I have negative 1k plus negative 1 equals, on the other side I distribute the positive 2. So I have 2 times k, so it's 2 times 1, plus 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, right here I have like terms that are right next to each other, so I combine them to get 1k plus negative 1 equals 2k plus 10. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I have 1k equals 2k plus 11. Remember, whatever you do to the one side equal sign, you do to the other side. So on this one, I'm going to get k's together. I cannot combine them to be 1 plus 2 because this is not an addition sign. I have to move that around. So I subtract 2k minus 2k. So negative 1k equals 11. Divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1. K equals negative 11. Alright, on number 5, this is solving, so it's just like an equal sign. We just have to be careful with the inequality greater than or less than. Since 22 doesn't have an x with it, I want to bring the 7 over with it, so subtract 7, subtract 7. Negative 5x greater than or equal to 15. Now I'm going to divide by a negative 5 because this is actually multiplying here. Divide by negative 5. The only way to cancel out that is to divide by a negative. So x, and I have to flip around because I'm dividing by a negative number, means it goes to the other side of the inequality, and I get negative 3 over here. So your final answer is x is less than or equal to negative 3. Okay. Okay, number 6 is one of these ones where we have the total already. Your total is 52.68. This includes 100% of the food and drinks and tax and whatever. Sorry, that is a 1. And 20% of the tip. So this number actually includes 120%. So if we divide by 100, because we never work with percents like that, we always kind of move the decimal one way or the other. I'm going to divide by 100, so this gives me 1.2 to work with. Now you take your total and divide by 1.2, and this will help separate out 20% of the tip. If I divide it by 1.8, this would help me find just the amount that is the food, drinks, whatever they bought. So if you do 52 divided by 68, I'm actually looking for an amount smaller than 52.68. Now the reason is because this is the total, and this includes a tip already, so I'm trying to separate them out, so I want a number less than 52.68. And with that I get $43.90. This is the original amount of the bill because I'm taking out the 20% that was the tip. Okay, so this is what you're looking for. That is the amount of the bill with the food and everything in it. On number 7, please read carefully which of the following is not a solution of the equation. Alright, so I have to take all these ordered pairs, and remember, each time you have an ordered pair, it's x and y. So each one of these is x and y. So if I test 0 and 3, I plug 6 times 3 minus 3 times 0 and see if that equals 18. 6 times 3 is 18 minus nothing, so that goes away, so 18 equals 18. So that works. So that's not the one I want. Next I'm going to do 6 times 0 minus 3 times negative 6 and see if that equals 18. Well, 6 times 0 is 0. Negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. So again, I get 18 equals 18. Well, they're equal, so that doesn't work. The third one has 6 times 2 minus 3 times negative 2, which is, see if that equals 18. I get 12 plus 6, which is 18 equals 18. So yep, works. So ironically, we're left with one solution. Hopefully it actually works though. So I am going to do a quick check. 6 times negative 2, because it's 6 times y, minus 3 times 2, and see if that equals 18. So we get negative 12 minus 6. That's negative 18 equals 18. No, they are not equal. So definitely 2, negative 2 is not the solution, which is the answer I'm looking for. Number 8, find the x-intercepts of the equation y equals 8x plus 8. Alright, we want both x-intercept and y-intercept. So if I'm doing your x-intercept, I need to figure out the x value when I know y is going to be 0. So if I take this number and plug it in, I have 0 equals 8x plus 8. Solve for x. Figure out how much x is. Subtract the plain 8. There is your x-intercept. As x, either x equals negative 1 or the order paired negative 1, 0. For the y-intercept, we do the opposite. We plug in a 0 for the x and figure out the y. Excuse me. So I go back to this and I say y equals 8 times 0 plus 8. Well, 8 times 0 is 0. Add 8 to that and you get y equals 8. So there's your y-intercept, or 0, 8. Either way that works. Number 9 is the slope formula. So if you don't remember the slope formula, it may be handy as you're doing your final to figure out, or have it near you. y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Some prefer y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This actually comes out to be the exact same thing either way, so it's fine. Just remember, so this is my first x, first y, second x, second y. So I plug them in and do 7 minus negative 1 over negative 3 minus 4. On top, when I do 7 minus negative 1, it's like 7 plus 1, which is 8. On the bottom, negative 3 minus 4, which is negative 7. That cannot be simplified anymore, so that is your slope. Number 10, the exponents. Since this is in parentheses, it's like saying 3w times 3w times 3w times 3w. It's repeated 4 times. Or another way to think about it is that I have to give the 4 as the exponent to everything inside the parentheses, just like distributing. So you can say 3 to the 4th and then w to the 4th. Now, the other one doesn't have parentheses, so the only thing the exponent of 5 goes with is the w. So if I kind of simplify this, this is 81. W to the 4th times 2w to the 5th. Alright, so we're almost done. We have some multiplying to do. 81 times 2 is 162. And then w to the 4th and w to the 5th means I just combine them. I have 4 w's here, 5 w's here, I have w to the 9th. Okay, at number 11 you have negative exponents and want to make them positive. If you have positives already, leave them alone. H to the negative 5 goes down. H to the negative 13 goes up. Because negative 5 is negative 5 is the negative exponent, so it goes to the other spot that is. So h to the 13 on top, j to the 6 on top, h to the 5 on bottom, j to the 9 on bottom. Alright, so when we do this, we subtract exponents. We do h to the 13 minus 5, and we do j to the 6 minus 9. So I have h to the 8 and j to the negative 3. We'll just make this into a fraction, so over 1. Anytime you need a fraction, just make it over the number 1. And move this part down. That's what will make the exponent positive. For number 12, we're going to do a couple of things of distributing. We're going to do the 5 times all of this, and we're going to do the 6 times all of this. So one way to write that out is 5x times both of those. Then I'm also going to do positive 6 times 2x minus 3. 5 times 2 is 10. X times x is x to the 2nd. Minus 5x times negative 3 is negative 15x. This is positive 12x, and this is negative 18. Last thing you do is simplify like terms. 10x to the 2nd minus 3x minus 18. That's all you have to do. Number 13, where factoring says completely. That's a good hint to you there's actually more than probably one thing to do. Alright, well when I start out by looking at these, they all have x. So I'm looking for the lowest exponent. So I want to take out as much as possible out of all of them. However, I can't take anything bigger than a 2 out of this because I don't have anything there. So I'm going to take a GCF out. This is greatest common factor. I'm going to take x to the 2nd out of all of them. It's basically dividing it out. If I take it out of that, I have x to the 2nd minus 5. 3 minus 2 is x, and 6, and x squared over x squared, they actually cancel out, so I'm just left with 6. So that is a good start to your factoring. Now we need to factor the inside here. I carry along the x squared. I want to split up this x squared, x and x. Numbers have multiplied to negatives, multiplied to 6, but add to negative 5. Now the only way to multiply a negative 6 is either positive and a positive or negative and a negative. Since I want a negative in the middle, I know they have to both be negative. And 3 times 2. That's it. Number 14. When you start seeing the word solving, Well, I want to figure out what x equals at my end. So first thing I'm going to do is get everything on one side. So I have x squared minus 5x minus 36 equals 0. I like having x squared be positive because you don't have to mess around with the negative signs. You just have x and x, just like we had in the one above. Okay, to quickly factor this, so I split up this x and x. I want to multiply here, but add here. Now you have a positive, you have a negative sign and a negative sign, which means you're going to have a positive and a negative because you want to multiply to a negative. Now you want to have a bigger number, bigger negatives, so because we want negative 5. So we have negative 9 here. And let's see, 4. Alright, so once you have your factors in solving, you take each factor, x plus 4 equals 0, because anytime you have a 0, when you multiply, everything goes away. And I'm going to do x minus 9 equals 0. So in this one, subtract 4, x equals negative 4. On this one, add 9, x equals 9. There are your two solutions. Alright, factor completely for number 15. Well, again, we're going to look for GCF. I can actually take 6 out of all of them. I cannot take a variable out because they don't all have a variable. But if I take out the 6, it'll make it a little bit easier. Whoopsie. Try that again. 6 out, x squared minus x minus 12. Okay, that was the first step. Now again, we got to go back to this and factor like we did up here. I want to multiply to this and add to this. So this is a negative 1 right there. So 6 outside, my two parentheses, x and x. Negative, so here we have positive and a negative. And now you have a negative 4 and a positive 3. And that's all you have to do. There are all of your factors there. Alright, number 16 is actually a factor by grouping. So I'm going to take two terms at a time. I'm going to take those terms together and those terms together. Now I have 16d to the third minus 32d to the second. So I'm going to take 16 out of both and d to the second out of both. D to this, 16d to the second, and then I'll have 1d here. Then I'll do 32 divided by 16 to get negative 2. Then d squared over d means they would cancel out, so it's 1d minus 2. Now I want to group these two, and I want the whole parenthesis to look like this. So what actually happens is if I divide out a negative 1, I'm going to flip the signs of everything. So I'm going to have 1d minus 2. So now I'm going to group these terms together, the outside ones, 16d to the second minus 1, and I have 1d minus 2. Now it does say factor completely, which is a good hint to you. You probably need to do something more with one of these parts. Now this one can factor into 4d plus 1 and 4d minus 1. It's a special one, perfect square. So square root that and you get 4 and 4, square root that, you get d and d. Square root that, you get 1, so positive, negative, and then you still have 1d minus 2 hanging around as one of the factors. And then you're done. Number 17, we start getting into fractions. So we are going to factor the top together. We're to x to the fifth minus 81x. So I'm going to do a GCF with that, and I'm also going to do a GCF with the bottom. Okay, so out of the top I'm going to take an x, out of the bottom I'm going to take an x. Out of So I'm going to have GCF on x, then I have x to the fourth minus 81. And then bottom I'm taking out x again, I'm going to have x squared plus 9. Alright. Moving on from there, this is a perfect square again and perfect square. So I'm going to have x, I'm going to have x squared minus 9 and x squared plus 9 over x times x squared plus 9. Well, the nice thing you start seeing is something should start appearing top and bottom to be the same. And when I divide x and x, well, since they're the same thing, it's the same as dividing 4 by 4, which equals 1. So x over x equals 1. Those actually cancel out. X plus squared plus 9 and x squared plus 9 actually cancel out. I am left with x squared minus 9. Now the thing you got to watch out for, if it's a perfect square here and a perfect square here with subtraction in the middle, we have to factor one more time. I have x and x plus 3 and minus 3. It's one of those special factoring things. If it's both perfect squares and a subtraction in the middle, you just square root both of them and have one of them plus and one of them minus. Alright, number 18, kind of similar and kind of different all at the same time. I'm going to rewrite it on this side. X plus 12 and 2x minus 24 divided by 3x plus 36 x squared minus 144. Okay. First of all, with the division, I want to change it to multiplication. And by doing that, I take everything on the top, put it on the bottom. Everything on the bottom goes to the top. So I have x plus 12 over 2x minus 24. I'm just going to do the reciprocal fraction here. Alright, so I'm going to start factoring. X plus 12 still stays as x plus 12. 2x minus 12, well, there's a GCF in that of 2. So I'm going to take 2 out of both, and I have x minus 6. Times, well, this is one of those things I was just talking about, perfect square. You have a perfect square here, so you split that up, x and x. You have a subtraction sign in between, it's plus and minus. 144 square roots to 12 and 12. And then you have on the bottom, take 3 out of both, so you have 3 and then x plus 12. Alright, so if anywhere they are the same top and bottom, oopsie, I made that at 24 when I didn't, 12 when I didn't mean to, so sorry, 24 carries down to here. Divide out 2 and you get 12 here. Sorry about that. Okay, even multiplying, if you have the same thing top and bottom, you cancel them out. So I have x plus 12, x plus 12. Go away. I have x minus 12, and I have x minus 12. Now I'm left with just a single thing. So I have x plus 12 on top. Now I do have these two numbers. 2 times 3 to give me 6 on bottom. Alright, number 19. It's a good idea to check these factors to see if they factor okay. This one does factor into x plus 3 and x minus 1, which is actually the same factors here. So I want to make sure these fractions over here have the exact same thing as this does. So all this one is missing is the x plus 3. Top and bottom. This is missing x minus 1, top and bottom. Okay. So I'm going to equal, I'm not changing my right side at all because I'm trying to make everything look like that. Okay, so I have x squared minus x, I'm distributing on top, over x plus 3x minus 1 on bottom. Subtract 6x minus plus 18 on top, x plus 3x minus 1. Okay, bottoms, bottoms, and bottoms. Everything is the same in the fractions. All these bottoms are equal. It means you just take care of the top exactly how it looks. I have x squared minus x minus 6x minus 18 equals negative 24. So I'm going to combine like terms, which I got here. X squared minus 7x. I'm also going to add 24 to both sides. Let's see here. So they'd be plus 6 equals 0. Alright, so I'm very close to this. I'm going to factor. Multiply to x, so x and x. Okay, I have a positive here to multiply to, and a negative here. So again, similar to, where was that? Number 13. I want to multiply to a positive, so the signs have to be the same, but I want to add to a negative, so I know I want negatives here. Negative 6 and negative 1. So I just take each parenthesis equal to 0. Plus 6, x equals 6. Plus 1, x equals 1. There are your solutions for number 19. Okay, number 20, when you're looking at a graph, all you have to do is basically draw vertical lines and say, does it ever cross the graph more than once? Nope. So it passes the vertical line test. So yes, it is a function. Number 21, function notation. I have f of x equals 5x to the second minus 3x. Well, I want to change it to not just x, but I want to change it to x plus 2. So everywhere you saw plain x before, because it was just plain x, plain x, plain x, I want to change it to that entire thing. So instead of just plain x, it's going to be x plus 2. Instead of plain x, it's going to be x plus 2. Then it's 5, and then x plus 2 squared minus 3. I'm going to change it to x plus 2. It's typically a good idea to put parentheses in if you're going to plug stuff in, just so you know where you plugged it in. Now, order of operations says I need to do this first. This is not x squared plus 4. You have to do x plus 2 times x plus 2. That's what this means. This factor repeated twice. So I'm going to take it and do x plus 2 times x plus 2 minus 3 times x plus 2. So I'm just going to take this 5 along with the x and do it all at once. 5x squared plus 10x plus 4x plus 4 minus 3x plus 6. So you're going to end up with like terms of 5x squared, 10 plus 4x minus 3x um, 14 plus 11x, and then 4 plus 6 is plus 10. Number 22, find an equation of a line through 3, 2, and -5, -9. First you got to figure out the slope, just like we did before. 2 minus -9, y's over the x's. 3 minus -5. So you get positive 11 over positive 8. That's your slope. Now depending on what the question looks like on the final, you can do point slope, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where you plug in numbers for your m, your x1 and your y1. You just pick an x and y. And this is a super handy formula to use even if it doesn't look like this, because I'll show you why. Y minus 2 equals 11 over 8 times x minus 3. You pick one of the ordered pairs and you ignore the other after you have the slope. That's all you have to do. So first you distribute. Y minus 2 equals 11 over 8x minus 33 over 8. And now, if I want to put in slope-intercept, which looks like y equals mx plus b, I just solve for y by adding 2. Careful with adding fractions, because it doesn't mean I'm going to have negative 31 over 8. That's going to be 16 over 8. Let's see here. So we have to get common denominators, times 8 times 8, 16 over 8. That is negative 17 over 8. And there's the other form. So depending on what the answers look like on the multiple choice part of the test, you can pick one and work into the other, or maybe you'll have one right away. On number 23, solving for systems. Well, you can either multiply and get opposites. So I could multiply this by negative 2 to get y's to be opposites here. But you have to make sure to carefully multiply everything. So here's the top equation. I'm going to try to cancel out my y's. Negative 2y plus 4x equals negative 16. And then add down. This plus this cancel out. Woohoo! We got 1x plus 4x is 5x. Got 1 plus negative 16 is negative 15. Finish up by solving for y. I'm sorry, for x here. You got half of your answer. Now I gotta go back and figure out the y. So just take it and either plug it into the top or the bottom, whatever you like. 2y minus 3 equals 1. 2y equals 4. Y ends up being positive 2. So the ordered pair, if you want to order pair, is negative 3 and positive 2. Or just x is negative 3 and y is positive 2, depending on how they give you the answers in the final. Okay, number 24 is the system of equations, and it has the percentages with the stuff. So I'm going to call x my 2% solution. I'm going to call y my 6% acid solution. Okay, I'm going to add quarts of the 2% and quarts of the 6% and end up getting 60 total quarts. Now remember, anytime you have percentages to use, you have to change the decimal, so divide them by 100. That's 0.02 and 0.06. And then you also have a thing that's total of 5%. So it's 5% divided by 100 is 0.05. So we have 0.02x, because I want 2% of the acid. So this is all about the quarts. This next one is all about the acid, like the percentage of the acid. So 0.02x plus 0.06y equals 60 quarts that are 0.05 acid. So I have x plus y equals 60. 0.02x plus 0.06y equals 3. I just multiplied those together to get 3. This time I'll do a little substitution. I'm going to solve for one of the variables here. So I have x plus y equals 60. I'm going to subtract x from both sides. Doesn't matter why, I'm just feeling in that kind of mood, I guess. So I take that and plug it in for my y. 0.02x plus 0.06 times 60 minus x equals 3. Now I have all x's in my problem. I'm going to start distributing my decimal here. 0.02x plus 3.6 minus 0.06x equals 3. Subtracting these to both sides. And I also have like terms here. Negative 0.04x was negative 0.6 divided by negative 0.04. X comes out to be 15 liters. So if I know x plus y equals 60, I just put 15 plus y equals 60. So y ends up being 45 liters. Alright, 25 is a system of 3 equations. So what I'm going to do is take 2 at a time. I'm going to work with the top and the bottom, or top and middle. Now when I look at them, the easiest thing to do is multiply to get the y's to cancel out. So do some elimination. So I'm going to multiply the second equation all by 2. Alright, so here's my first step. I'm going to take this over. I have 6x minus 4y plus 5z equals 31. My second equation is 10x plus 4y plus 4z equals 2 times 13 is 26. Okay, now I got to do some addition here. I'm going to combine these into one equation. I have 16x. The 4y's cancel out. 9z total equals 57. Alright, so I'm going to stop here and let this rest, and I'm going to go back and work with what I started with. So the first time I used the top 2. The second time now I'm going to use like the middle and the bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to intentionally eliminate the y's just like I did before, so I only have x's and z's to work with. So now I'm going to multiply by, well, I have 2 here, multiply by negative 2 on the bottom. So my top will stay the same. I have negative 2x plus negative 2y plus negative 2z equals negative 4. Add them up, I get 3x. These cancel, and conveniently enough, the z's cancel too. I have 13 minus 4 is 9. Solve for x by dividing by 3, x equals positive 3. Alright, so I already have x figured out, which is good. I'm going to take that back over here and say, well, if I know x, I can plug that in to figure out z. So I do 16 times 3 plus 9z equals 57. 48 plus 9z equals 57 minus 48. 9z equals 9, z equals 1. And then lastly, I also need to figure out the y. So I'm going to use the simplest equation I have from the beginning. X plus y plus z equals 2. I don't have any multiplying to do, I just had to plug in the number. So I have 3 plus y plus 1 equals 2. 4 plus equals 2 minus 4 minus 4. Y equals negative 2. So there are your three answers. X is 3, Y is negative 2, and Z is positive 1. Alright, 27. Now I know a lot of people have a fear of fractions, but actually you just gotta kind of know how to work with them. And it doesn't make it so bad. I'm going to make everything into a fraction. So like I said before, if you need a fraction, make it over 1, make it over 1. I am going to cross multiply, so I'm going to multiply that by 4. So I'm going to have 32 there. I'm going to multiply that one also by 4, negative 12. And that actually gets rid of my fraction. You don't have to worry anymore about it. It's cross multiplying. Now the reason I didn't do anything with the 2x minus 5 is because I was going to multiply that with a positive 1, which doesn't change anything. It leaves it as 2x minus 5. Okay, now I have to add 5 to everything here. I have negative 7, less than 2x, less than or equal to 37. Then I'm going to divide by 2, 2, and 2. Negative 3.5 less than x less than 38 would be 19, so 18.5. And that is your answer. You want x alone in the middle. You want a smaller number on the left and a larger number on the right, so you're done right there. Alright, absolute value inequalities, or equal signs. You want to get the absolute value to be by itself first. So any numbers that are on the outside, I have to move them. So subtract 11. You got 2, absolute value 2x minus 7 equals 14. Divide by 2's. 2x minus 7 equals positive 7. Alright, fantastic. I need to figure out the x values, and I mean more than one, that if I multiply by 2 and subtract 7, I'm going to equal 7 itself. The absolute value will take care of the positive part, so you need to figure out, I need to start at 0, I need to figure out how to get to a 7 to do the absolute value here, and how to get to a negative 7 to do that absolute value. So I need to figure out an x that will put me on the path to get to this one, and a x that will put me on the path to get to that negative 7. So you have 2 problems to do, just like in your chapter 9 homework. 2x minus 7 equals positive 7. 2x minus 7 equals negative 7. The nice thing about these, once you set them up, you do the exact same thing to both. 2x equals 14. 2x equals 0. Divide everything by 2. X equals 7. Or x equals 0. Either of those numbers, when you plug them in for x, will give you the answer you're looking for. Alright, simplify the square root. I'm going to kind of split this up into all the mini parts here. And then I'm going to kind of put them together. So, square root of 48 is actually 16 times 3. I am looking for perfect squares here, which 16 actually is, so that means you have 4 root 3. Now, a square root means you're going to take 2 out. So, the square root of this means I'm going to take 2 out and have an f outside. I'm also going to be left with a third f left under. And now this one, d to the 16, well, since I'm looking for powers of 2, or divisors of 2, it goes in there 8 times. So it's going to be d to the 8 outside, but I got to remember to do absolute value of d because I want it to be a positive number. Alright, so let's see. To put this all together, outside I have 4, I have an F, I have absolute value of D to the 8. Still under the square root I have a 3 and an F. And that's all you do. Alright, rationalize the denominator, 25 over square root of 15. All you have to do is multiply top and bottom by whatever root is down there. So if square root 3 is down here, top and bottom by square root 3. If square root 5 is down there, top and bottom by square root 5. This one you have 25 root 15 all over 15 times 15 is square root of 225, which is now 15. Rationalizing means they don't want square roots in the bottom. A top is totally fine, just not in the bottom. So then simplify this. You have 5 over 3 and then root 15. And that's all you do. (32) I have a square root that I want to get rid of because I do want to solve. I want to figure out what x equals. So the first thing I do is get the square root by itself. Square root of 2x plus 7 equals x plus 2. Now I'm going to square root both things. Square root and a squared cancel out, 2x plus 7. Now remember what we did in the other problem, x plus 2 squared means x plus 2 times x plus 2. So I'm going to FOIL or multiply x plus 2 times all of that and then 2 times all of that. So I have x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4. Alright, if I take this 2x over, I'm going to knock out actually one of those 2x's. I'm going to take 7 over. I'm going to have 0 equals x squared plus 2x minus 3. I'm going to factor this now. No GCF to worry about. X and x splits up. I have a plus and a minus sign because I have a negative here and a positive here. If it's never negative here, you have one of each. And I want a positive, so I want a bigger number to be positive. So I have the numbers 3 and 1 multiplied to 3. That's the only way. And I want positive 3 and negative 1. So I set up x plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3 and you get x equals negative 3. Then I have x minus 1 equals 0. X equals 1. And you are done. This is your final answer. I'm looking for what x equals in the end. Alright, number 33. Alright, quadratic equation. They want you to work this with the quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now they start with these a, b, and c numbers. A is a number with x squared, b is a number here, c is a number by itself. So you just plug in the numbers. Sorry, this is x equals. So it's x equals negative 8 plus or minus 8 squared, which is 64, minus 4 times 7 and 2, all over 2 times 7. Alright, I have negative 8 plus or minus, then you square root 64 minus 4 times 7 times 2 is positive 8 all over 14. Now 8 should be able to simplify, square root of 8 should be able to simplify to 4 times 2. So you have negative 8 plus or minus 2 root 2 over 14. Now the only thing left that you really can do is break each one down. Each one is divisible by 2. I only worry about the outsides, not the root. So negative 4 plus or minus 1 root 2 over 7. Alright, 34. Find the vertex of the quadratic function. The vertex is found with negative b over 2a. That's the x coordinate. We want an x and a y. So the first thing to do is figure out the x. So same thing we did before. A, B, and C. The x equals the opposite of b, so I have a negative 8 for b. It's going to be positive 8 over 2 times my a value, which is 2. So 8 over 2 Oh no, I'm sorry. So 8 over 4, which is 2. Sorry about that. So my x value for my parentheses is 2. That's the first coordinate of the vertex. Now to figure out the y, I'm going to plug in my 2 for every single x that I see in the problem. I'm going to leave this side alone. Don't even worry about that. I'm going to do 2 times 2 squared, so 2 times 4, and then minus 16 minus 15, so I have 8 minus 16 minus 15, negative 8 minus 15, negative 23. Make sure you do the order of operations, parentheses, exponents, multiply or divide, add and subtract. So the vertex is negative 2 from the x value that we found, but the negative b over 2a. And then I plugged that 2 into every single x that I had in the problem. And I got a negative 23. All right. Last one, on number 35, identify the graph. So this is something where you'd have a picture to look at. You have A is negative 3, A, B, and C again. B is negative 12, and C is negative 8. Well, what we would do is first find our vertex, negative b over 2a. So for us, that's negative 12, so opposite is positive 12 over 2 times negative 3. 12 over negative 6, which is negative 2. So that's my x coordinate. Now again, to find the y, I plug in negative 2 into every single x I see. Negative 3 times negative 2 squared minus 12 times negative 2 minus 8. Be very careful with your negatives. Negative 2 squared is 4. You have these two to multiply here to get negative 12. These two to multiply here to get positive 24. And then subtract 8. And then we have 12 here minus 8, which leaves me with 4 for my y value. So that is your vertex for the graph. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 on the x, 4 on the y. That is your vertex here. Now the other thing to know is this, the a value, if a is positive, it opens up. It's going to be a curvy shape that opens up. If a is negative, it will open down. So, since a is negative 3, I know this is going to be my high point, and the graph will go down like that. Okay. Good luck on these. I'm also going to put up a multiple choice review that will be very similar to the final. 35 questions again. I will go over that on Saturday night, which is tomorrow, from like 9:30 to 10:30. So look for the review and look for the video for it so you can check out what you want to check out. And good luck. Let me know if you have questions.